And now, go to the garden for a moment. Father, let this cup pass from me. Let this cup pass from me. Drops of blood coming from his brow. Father, let this cup pass from me. These preachers, they say, oh, Jesus didn't want to go to that Roman cross. That's a lie. Oh, Jesus, these charismatic preachers. Jesus was afraid of the devil. Blasphemy. Oh, that Roman cross, that whip, he didn't want to go to it. Absurd. Let me ask you a question. Just for a second. I want you to think about this for just a moment. After the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, since that time, it is estimated that 50 million men and women and children have died for their profession of faith in Jesus Christ. They've died as martyrs. In the early church, through the time of the Puritans and the Reformation, do you know, let's just use the early church for example. Many of Jesus' followers were crucified. Not only crucified, they were crucified upside down. Not only crucified upside down, they were covered with pitch and set on fire to provide lights for the streets of Rome. But many of those followers of Jesus, in chains being taken off to be crucified, sang hymns full of joy. Do you honestly believe the captain of our salvation is in a garden cowering because of a cross, even though his disciples went to the same cross with joy in their heart? Do you think that the captain of our salvation is so weak? Think, man. Jesus wasn't afraid of a cross or a nail or a spear or a crown of thorns. What was in the cup? I'll never forget it at a Reformed school, theologically Reformed school several years ago. I went there and I said, well, you've called me here to preach. I'm here. And they said, you'll be preaching out in the auditorium. I said, wonderful. What ages? And they said, well, kindergarten to the 12th grade. And I said, well, I'm going to be teaching on propitiation. It's kind of a wide berth, don't you think? They said, it won't be a problem, Mr. Washer. So I walked out there. And as I was preaching, I stopped and I said, what was in the cup? What is it that caused Christ to tremble? And I'll never forget, this little 8-year-old girl raised her hand. And I said, yes. And she stood up, stood beside her desk. And she said, Mr. Washer, the wrath of God was in the cup. God's fierce hatred for all that is evil was in the cup. A wooden cross? All men are under the fierce, just wrath of God because of their vile wickedness. Someone had to drink down that wrath. Jesus Christ on that tree bore the guilt of His people and stood in their law place. Then all the holy, just hatred, wrath, judgment, and justice of God like blinding white light came crushing down on the head of His only begotten Son. Have you never read, and it pleased the Lord, Yahweh, to crush Him, to grind Him to powder? Imagine for a moment a dam 10,000 miles high and 10,000 miles wide, and you're standing below the thing, a mile back from the wall. And all of a sudden, in a second, the wall is pulled away and all that water comes crushing down upon you. But right before it gets to your feet, the ground opens up and swallows it down. So the wrath of God destined for people. The Son of God took that cup out of His Father's hand, and He drank every drop. And when He cried out, it is finished, He turned it over and not one drop fell out. He drank it all. If I were to summarize the cup of wrath in the Old Testament, it would be something like this. God saying, because of the wickedness and the rebellion of the nations, I will send them the full force of my wrath. I will hand them my cup, and I will make them drink it, and they will drink it, and they will stagger, and they will die. But on that tree, Christ drank the cup. You've heard the story of Abraham and his son. Go up to that mountain and slaughter your only son. Abraham goes to that mountain in obedience. He ties his son down. His son offers no resistance, it seems. The old man goes for the knife, lays his hand upon the brow of his son, and as the hand comes down, he is stopped. God will provide. And you say, oh, what a wonderful story. There it was, the animal there trapped by its horns in the bush. What a wonderful ending to the story. It wasn't the ending. It was the intermission. Hundreds of years later, on a hill called Calvary, God the Father laid His hand on the head of His only begotten Son, and He slaughtered Him. Someone had to die. You see, this is the cross that all these modern day preachers put in the back of the store and not in the storefront window, because it's a shameful thing. It's a horrid thing. It's a terrible thing. Some of you are looking at each other as though, I've never heard anything like this before. Absolutely, and that's why the cross has so little power in your life. This is a horrid thing, a vile thing, not the kind of thing you wear around your neck. Someone had to die. Justice had to be satisfied. To demonstrate love, God had to put away sin first. And there was only one way to do it, the death of the only begotten Son of God. He died. And you see, this is what the Christian life is all about. Paul says in Romans chapter 12, he pleads with the people. He says, I urge you, as a pastor would urge a loving flock. He says, I urge you to do what? To lay down your life, to offer your life as a living and holy sacrifice acceptable to God. But Paul gives the motivation. He says to lay down your life based upon the mercies of God. And what is he talking about? The thing that ought to motivate you to lay down your life for Christ are the mercies of God. But in Romans chapter 12, the mercies of God are referring to the first 11 chapters of the book of Romans. Where in the first 11 chapters of the book of Romans, Paul explains everything God has done for us in Christ. And he's saying, since God has done all this in Christ, now lay down your life for Him. And the more you know of this cross, the more you are given to lay down your life for Him. He's no longer this little accessory that you put on your life to make it better. He is your life. You are consumed by Him. You are constrained by Him. Every thought, every judgment, every word, everything you do. Why do you do this, sir? Why do you do that, sir? Because Christ has shed His own blood for my soul. The love of God in Christ constrains me. He died. Offer up the sacrifice. Creation sends forth the call. Offer up the sacrifice. One life to pay for them all. Offer up the sacrifice. The innocent one must be slain. Offer up the sacrifice and bring man back to God again. He died.